Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. This is season 6, and I am here with my co-host, Alicia Soikawa. Alicia, thanks again for being part of this. I've been so excited to see, as we've been announcing this new co-host arrangement, people have been so kind and supportive. Have you seen the comments?
People have been really excited. I think it's like a marriage of two different school of thoughts, but we're actually very similar in a lot more ways than people realize.
Yes.
I think we're sides of a coin. That's what I tell people.
Oh, I like that. That reminds me of Master Co saying giving and receiving, two sides of the same coin. Don't know Master Co, check him out.
Love him.
The sage. Okay, so today we are talking about comparisonitis. This was Alicia's idea, the word comparisonitis, if I can pronounce it, and the danger of it. So Alicia, what would you say the definition to you of comparisonitis?
I think it's something that starts when we're young. You see it when preschool kids or kids that are of some type of school age because they're around groups of friends of their peer level.
Yeah.
And it's about, in a sense, keeping up with the Joneses in adult life, or so-and-so, Molly got this, so I need that. Or because they're wearing that outfit, I need this. Just like everyone has to have the Stanley mugs. Everybody has to have the Uggs. Everybody it's the measurement that you compare yourself against someone else to make sure that your worth, value, in your acceptance into a group, if you have all the right things. So you sit there and you compare yourself, and I think it's very dangerous. It's a very slippery slope. You can use it to motivate you and push you and drive you to succeed, which I can see positive things. So it's a double-edged sword, which makes it sometimes not noticeable as it could be a bad thing, if that makes sense. So just like someone's really achievement oriented, no one's going to go, don't be achievement oriented. But if that's all you are about, it's never enough. So what happens with comparisonitis, and it's a made up word, if you're always comparing yourself, but I'm not at this level, but I'm not doing it like Meredith, but I'm not doing it like Alicia, that's where you see, I think it kind of is a very bad storm kind of forming about what's going on in your brain about who you are.
Right. And I think it reminds me of, Tony Robbins, who says achievement without fulfillment is the greatest failure. And that's what happens when people have comparisonitis. You get to a level of achievement and you go, okay, now this must be it, right? Like I checked that box. I did this thing. I did all these things to have other people accept me and approve of me, but you still don't feel fulfilled. And that's because your sense of self-worth is what's missing. It was never about the approval of the other person to begin with. It was about you embracing yourself. So you said you think that it starts as maybe as a school age kid. You just reminded me, for some reason, like this memory popped up when you said that, of being on the playground. This was like the dumbest thing when I was a kid. So this is kind of interesting, right? I went to a private school where we wore uniforms. And one of the purposes of the uniforms was that we avoided this kind of one-upping that can happen with wealthy kids sometimes, and wearing designer clothes or whatever it is, expensive things or trendy things. You all wore the same thing. But this is going to really date me. But do you remember those little barrettes that had like it was like ribbon braided into it, kind of? Okay. So there was this one kind of barrette that one store in Potomac sold. And I had the wrong kind of barrette. And I remember it so vividly. This girl made a comment about the barrettes that I had. And she was like, oh, I can tell those are homemade. Those aren't from the store in Potomac. And man, it just like cut me to the core, because I felt so like exposed. Like, oh, I couldn't. And
like you're a fraud because you had
I was trying to fit
one
in,
and not your own, and you were trying to fit in and be accepted.
Yes, right. So I'm like, I wonder if that was like that beginning point for me. And I was pretty young. I was like,
I would say yes, considering you remember it so vividly and clearly. It stayed with you, and so now, as an adult, you're like, I don't want to be that person. So I'm never going to be fake, or I'm never going to buy anything that's fake. I'm never going to buy anything that's not the original. Like there's some of that whole stuff going on. And that's what happened with my daughter with that Stanley Cup. I was like, why do you need that? Why can't we just buy this other thing? It's the same thing. It looks the same. She goes, it's not it, Mom.
I know. Oh, you should see.
All right.
My cup is this right here. It's not a Stanley Cup. And so my kids were like, when I got this, they're like, they're judging me that I got this Hydro Flask instead of a Stanley Cup. And I'm
And
like,
that was an original, actually. That's actually it's a really great cup because I like that brand.
yeah,
But, and they're not cheap. So that's what's interesting is that if you don't just remember like remember the Sebagos, the
oh
shoes.
yeah,
Now we're dealing with Uggs. So that's like,
yes.
I think it's something that happens in all areas of life, but
Mhm.
specifically to real estate. I think what we see is how it's played out in real estate is like, let's say a baby agent, meaning I call baby agents brand new agents. So you could
Yeah,
be a
right.
grown adult as a baby agent. You're a baby agent and you're there hanging out and you go to like a Tom Ferry conference because we are Tom Ferry coaches and but let's just say even at elite retreat, right? The person
Yeah.
leveled up from core, they're an elite client now. They're like, oh, I'm an elite coaching client. It's a
Mhm.
big victory. I remember
Yeah.
becoming an elite client and thinking like this, I'm the shit.
Yes.
Look at me. Look at
Yeah.
me.
You get to
But
sit in the front
you roll
row.
up there and you're like, oh,
Yep. Yep.
never
You get your
mind.
lanyard. It's a big deal.
There's teams. There's other things. Wait a second. I'm not at the highest level, right?
Mhm.
And I apologize if you hear my dogs bark. This is real life.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so what happens is you see as a baby agent or as a solo agent or as a solo agent with an assistant, you see these mega teams, right? These teams where there's a team leader walking around with a strut. Like in your mind, it's a strut. They're just probably freaking out about something as a team because we're team leads. Like, oh shit, I got to do all these things and my people aren't doing
Yes.
it. That's what they're thinking, really. But you see
Right.
it as they're
Right.
this
But they're,
big, like a god.
yes.
And they have all these people under them, and there's a perception that immediately you've identified and said, I need to be that.
Mm.
Why am I not that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
comparison. They did it in 2 years. I should be able to do it in 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm not as far as I should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. How dangerous that is. Because you never really identified as if you're the baby agent, do you really want that? Do
Mm-hmm.
you
Because you
want the
didn't know what it was.
responsibility as a leader? Do you want the headache as running a team and manage? Do you know how to manage people? Do
Right.
you know managing people freaking sucks?
Right. Because here's what's really happening is that agent, as you just said, who looks so busy, right? They're like running out, they're like on the phone. And as the baby agent, you're like, oh, I want that to be me. I want to have so many people calling me that I
Mhm,
can't even stay in a
mhm,
conference. I've got to run out and take the call, which is so important because
mhm,
that could be a new listing on the line or that's a deal I have to keep together. That's what I want to be. And then
mhm,
when you
mhm,
realize how much you're missing by running
mhm,
after all that stuff, then you go, oh, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be after all. But you're right.
mhm.
That's what pushes a lot of people. They don't completely see the whole picture.
Yeah, and I think like it's so important to know that because before you make a decision based on someone else's life, that's how you want your life to be, sit still
Mm,
and figure out what you really want for your life to look
mhm.
like
Yeah.
without the noise of everybody else looking at you, making judgment on you. And I think we're starting to see more of an opening of that, which is beautiful. I think there's
Yeah.
people that are like, I never really wanted this. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I was supposed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was expected of me. That kind of language, just like children now are saying, I don't want to go to college,
Right.
but I went to call, our age, our generation, the Gen Xers, if you
Yeah.
didn't go to college, you were a loser.
Yeah. Everybody want,
Is
right?
that the word? Lose? Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
loser. Like, I remember that. There was no, you could go or you could die. I was like, I think I would live. I go. That was the choice in my house, right? Because again, comparisonitis from a
Yeah, me
Korean
too. There was never
immigrant,
even a question.
right?
That's just what you did.
Immigrant. Yeah, you
Yeah.
went.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh my God, there's so many other opportunities. There's so many choices. And is college now people go like, why would you go to college?
I know.
Unless you really need to go. So then you're like, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Wasn't it
And
crazy?
so,
So at Elite, there was a panel of young agents. They were all under 30. And that was the resounding thing. All of them
mhm,
said, Tom asked if there was something you could tell your younger self to do differently, what would it be? And they all said, I wouldn't go to college. And I was like,
mhm,
because they're not using their degree to get to the point that they need to in their careers. Maybe they're using some of it, but they just felt like it was time they could have spent to, I don't know, level up, explore the
mhm,
world, explore their own lives. Really interesting, I thought. I took that home with me. I really took that to heart, especially because I've got a youngest one who is really headstrong. And I think if she goes to college, it's going to be party town for her. And that's not really the point, maybe it is for some people. Okay. So you said that you feel like in some ways having this comparisonitis can actually like drive achievement. Can it ever happen in a good way, do you think?
I think so. I think that's what I meant, that I think people can use it to drive you, which then can be looked at as a good thing. Like, oh, I want that, so I'm going to work really hard. That's an example. So they
Yeah.
always say that someone's life is either an example or a warning,
Mm,
right? So you can use someone as an example, like, wow, she did this, she took the risk, and I want to do that. I want to follow that. That's the path I want to go. I don't look at that as like you're comparing your life to them. I look at that person is a goal. That person is like showed you the way. That person has
yeah.
carved the path for you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. But I think the danger lies when you're using that as a measurement against why you're less than.
Right.
I'm not good as that yet.
Mm,
I'm not good. You're good because you are you. That's the whole point, is the worth. I think that's the message I think young girls and women and men and people in the world today are really struggling with, because they're measuring their bank account against their neighbor's bank account. They're measuring, I didn't get the promotion, so I look stupid. Well, no, you don't look stupid. You've assigned that for yourself. Nobody really cares because they're worried about their own stuff. But you think everyone's just like when you walk into a party, you think everyone's looking at you and like, why does that person look like that? No, long as you're not inappropriate, they're like worried about what they're looking like. I
yeah.
guarantee. And I
Yeah.
did not even realize till my husband Michael pointed that out once, and I was like, hang on, babe,
Yeah.
I don't think
You
people
better be
really.
noticing me.
But it's so true, right? Because I
Yeah.
think if you think about it, people don't really care.
Right. Yeah. They care about
They're
themselves.
so about themselves. So even you, like even you and I, like if we're looking at someone that we say, oh God, that's amazing, I want that.
Mhm.
And if they're doing something, you might be like, oh, that's weird, I don't want to do that. But you're not sitting there obsessing about what they're doing and what they're not doing. You're more
Right.
concerned about how it's affecting you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's really, really true. So this topic came up because we are both reading a book called Worthy, which if
I'll
you
hold it up.
haven't read
It's like
Jamie
iridescent, so I
Kima,
don't know how it'll come across on the
oh, it
film.
looks cool. Yeah, no, it is coming across with all of its iridescence. And this is one that Alicia, you and
Ah,
Deborah, another member of our mastermind group, had read first and then said, you
yeah,
should read. So I'm actually listening to it. It's actually a great listen because
yeah,
she narrates it. She's
yeah.
very animated. And I would recommend reading it and listening to it maybe because it hits home in a different way sometimes. But a lot of this content we've been talking about today and sort of within our mastermind group lately is around this feeling of self-worth. And I feel like it infiltrates almost everything that we do, right? Everything we do in business, everything we do with our kids.
Yeah.
It's a big piece of what either holds us back or what propels us forward. And sometimes, like you said, it's two sides of the same coin. The part that I'm on right now is where she was talking about just reframing rejection. And this was so
Mm.
interesting to me because
Hmm.
she walks you through a process, like a step-by-step process of how to reframe it
Hmm.
and to see it as you were being
Protection.
protected. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The infinite God that you don't understand, if you believe in God, universe, spirit, whatever, the higher power is protecting you from something that you don't realize that you don't need,
Right.
or something so much better is coming along,
Right.
that particular thing is going to keep you from the next step if you try to force it through. You know,
Right.
when you try to force something through, and I'm going to say this as an agent, those of you that have done a deal that you forced through
Mhm.
and it is so miserable every step of the way, at the end of it, you're so worn out and
Yeah.
exhausted that you need
Yeah.
like a week to recover from it,
Yeah.
that you also then think back that, wow, interesting, I never didn't pick up any business during that process because your energy is so bad through that whole process,
Mhm.
because you were spending all your energy to force that through.
Such a good point. Such a good point. And when you learn to like let go of the attachment to the feeling of rejection or reframe it, I would think it's much easier. And I kind of have come to believe that about business that misses me. So, for example, let's say I go on a listing appointment that I really, really, really want and I don't get the listing. Now I think there's a reason. I was being saved from something
Mhm.
that would have taken me from another opportunity, or maybe it was just a horrendous client that wasn't aligned with how, I want to be able to show up in the world and serve. But I found it over and over again. And afterwards, I always hear stories, often from the agent who got the listing, like, man, you dodged a bullet on that.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Let me just tell you how horrible that was. I probably made minus 10 cents an hour on that one. But it's really interesting how when you start to embrace that, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to navigate those things and recover a lot faster too.
There's something called synchronicity in life if you're open to it, and if you believe that money is energy, which I know we both do. Energy is present all over life. Bill Pipes, I just got off of a call with him. He talked about that, and it reminded me, and this kind of all ties in with Master Co because he's an energy healer, is that anybody that's super successful in this world, their level of energy is off the charts. There's
Yeah.
not a single successful person, financially, professionally, in life, whatever, that does not have amazing energy. It does not exist.
Mhm.
But think about someone that's poverty-stricken, welfare, very dark person. They have very negative, low-level energy. So
Mhm.
it's like that vibrational levels, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So when you tend to hang out in that low level of pity, sorrow, comparison, jealousy, anger, frustration, blame,
Mhm.
those levels of energy, that's what you're gonna like, it's gonna stick to you like static.
Yeah.
But if you can rise yourself out of that, and that's what they say, make sure you do things in peak state, meaning bring your highest level of energy, listen to your hype song. When you get in your hype song, that's why if you see
That's
sports team, they do their little duh, 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 and then they go. Like everybody has their thing. They do a prayer before they go out. You
yeah.
see it before concerts, behind the scenes, you see it.
Yeah.
Everybody has a chant, like even sororities, when the sororities get together, have their little chants. Like
Yeah.
every group has their level of rising a collective energy so
Mhm.
they can come above. So if
Right.
you can do that for yourself and be at a level of high energy, it is surprising what you will attract. So the whole point
Very
of that is that, like, can you get to that place? But if you have such low self-worth,
Mhm.
hence the book Worthy, I don't
Mhm.
care how confident you are as a person, if your foundation of self-worth is in the toilet and you have this fake mask of I'm confident on,
Mhm.
you can see right through it. And I think you know what I'm talking about. There's people out there like that. And you're like,
Oh yeah.
something about that person doesn't land with me, right?
Right.
There's something, and you're like, there's something that's bugging me.
Mhm. They lead with ego often, I think is part of it, and, that kinda comes off as some kind of like you said, a false mask, and often
Yes.
you can see right through it pretty easily, and then what happens is, I personally, when I see that, I go into, like, pity for the person because I know there's
Yeah.
somebody so there's somebody hurt, there's somebody sensitive, there's somebody else under there that it's just a very thin veneer over. Um, not knowing that I haven't read the whole book, but I want to ask you about, you talked earlier about like the difference between confidence, self-confidence and self-worth. If there is someone who feels like their own sense of self-worth is low, what tools are available to them to be able to gain a greater sense of self-worth and not just lead with confidence?
I think a lot of it's just I think the first of all is awareness,
Hmm.
right? Because so much of the ego, meaning we have two selves. We have and Eckhart Tolle talks about this, the power now. So there's two selves, whether you believe it or not. If you have conversations with yourself, which we all do, and you talk to yourself, you're talking to someone. So
Right.
there's two people in you. I'm sorry. There's the ego and then there's your true self.
Yeah.
So if your ego is the one that's protecting your true self in
Hmm.
its mind, but it's actually hurting it a lot of times. So if you have to get rid of the ego to say, I don't feel well, I need help,
Hmm.
or it's that concept of healing the inner child within yourself that
Yeah.
was told you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not look good enough, you're not wearing the right outfits, you're not athletic enough, all the things about you're not enough.
Right.
It's the conversation you have to say, you have to make a mandate, I'm enough because I'm alive, because
Mm,
I'm a child of God, I'm enough.
mhm,
And I think there's a sense of knowing and understanding and getting to that point. It just takes time, I think, for some people, because number one, they don't want to believe that's the case. They're very much, the ego is going to take over and say, you're good, girl. That girl doesn't know what she's talking about,
Mm.
right? You're good. You're good. Don't, that's your mom's fault. That's
Yeah.
your grandma's fault. That's your husband's fault.
Right.
That's that
Right.
guy's fault. It's not, you don't take your own accountability for your own
Mm.
personal self-worth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the whole comparison, so the quote of like, self-confidence is what you show on the outside, self-worth is what you feel on the inside. Like this
Mhm.
thing, self-confidence is based on mastery because you can learn the self-confidence, right?
Yeah.
Self-worth is based on your identity.
Right.
So the identity piece is huge. Like, how do you identify yourself as?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're always that woman, it's like, oh, I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Like I hear that a lot. Why did I do
Mm-hmm.
that? I'm so stupid. Then
Yeah.
your identity is that you always make mistakes and you're stupid.
I was just going to say self-talk is so important in this, and learning how to speak to yourself in a way that helps grow your self-worth rather than breaks it down. And some of that self-talk is probably kind of like programmed into you. So you've got to practice it, right? To reprogram.
You do. I have a suggestion is to get a picture of yourself when you were really, really young.
Mm.
So we all have like, remember those class pictures you took when you were really young? Find one and put it next to your computer, put it next to your mirror, and say the nasty things you say to yourself to that person.
Ooh,
That's a very interesting. Would you say the stuff you say to
right,
yourself to that child?
right, right.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
honest,
think
like that's
it.
a great practice right there. Beyond anything real estate, that's life practice right there.
Yes, absolutely.
And, and I think it's like this whole thing, self-confidence is what you can do. So that's why people want to be achieve, right? Because that's their confidence. The more they succeed, the more confidence they get.
Yep.
And self-worth is who you are.
Yeah. Right.
And just because you're a human being in this world, you should have worth. You have worth because you exist.
Yeah.
Like I think Gary Vee talks about it, even just to have a baby in the world, it's like one, all the different sperm, like the one
Yes.
egg and the da,
All
da,
the
da,
things that
da,
have
and then
to
to be
happen.
here, it's a
Right.
miracle,
Totally. Yeah.
right? And so just being here is huge. You just being present is enough. Like you don't have to justify nothing.
Right.
But as
Right.
soon as you start justifying why you're here, that's when we have a problem.
Oh, so good. So good. That's so true.
Right. That's so true. And I love it. Like self-confidence is fragile, self-worth is foundational. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the foundation that if you have a strong self-worth and then you put self-confidence on top, you are unbreakable. But
Exactly.
so many people start with the self-confidence in hopes that the self-worth will come.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it happens with that.
Mhm.
So like another thing would be like the whole thing with Michael Singer, we talk about him as well with Untethered Soul is about not being bothered, right? Letting it go. Like I always think like you need
Yep.
to Elsa that, you need to Elsa, you look like Elsa. So it's like Elsa that. Self-confidence fluctuates based on your environment and self-worth is stable through every environment. So
Yeah.
that's that example of like, no matter what happens, you're just like, chill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Noticing, being aware of it, but not allowing it to affect you.
Right.
Is it easy? No. Do we have good days and bad days? Are there some days we can do it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a really hard day.
Mm.
Raise my hand.
Mm.
Really hard day yesterday. It was one of those days. And my husband said, Michael said to me, this is the stuff people don't see. And this is why 99.99% of people will never do it.
Mm.
Because when they have those days, they give up and they go back to what they think is safe and what they know.
Right, which is all
Right.
about reframing also. And
Yeah.
this, she talks about this in the book, that if you're that person that says, okay, well, these are all the reasons why I shouldn't, instead of saying, well, these are the reasons why I should and I can, or this is a sign, even sometimes that I need to learn more or that I need to grow a muscle I don't have right now. Take that builds self-worth and resilience
Mhm.
rather than just giving up. And if you haven't read the book, she's got a great story that she illustrates exactly what we're talking about right now. So, Alicia, what would you say to an agent who is starting in the business and has been told, fake it till you make it, put on that, like, put on the clothes, put on the makeup, put on the stilettos, whatever you feel like you need to do to play the part of the real estate agent. Get out there and, just be that person until you actually have some success. What do you think about that advice?
I think suiting up and booting up, that's the term for that, like showing up as the identity of who you want to be is very important. I think there's nothing wrong with that, but I think you have to figure out, why do you want that identity?
Mm,
So do you want that identity so people think you're awesome? Do you want that identity so you can meet the perfect man?
mm,
Do you want that identity because you're trying to prove something to someone that you can do it?
mm,
What is it about that identity? Are you wanting to be the top producer agent because you're trying to build wealth for your family, to feed them, to go on vacations, to live a life? There's a reason behind it that's driving you.
mm,
I think that's beautiful
mm.
because there's a reason for that. That you see something, there's an outcome. That's the outcome. And so you're now visualizing what is that outcome, and that's going to help you prepare for all the things you need to do
Yeah.
to really show up as that person every single day.
Yeah.
So that is the standard you're giving yourself, right? I'm going to suit up and boot up every single day, but that doesn't mean just because you show up wearing the outfit and looking cute. Are you working on your skills? Do you know the market? Are you reading the articles? Are you studying the things? Are you making the phone calls? Are you prospecting 1, 2, 3 hours a day? I heard that today. 1 hour a day will keep your business afloat. 2 hours a day will help you grow your business, and 3 hours a day will make you explode.
Ooh, like that. That's good.
So are you doing the necessary standards, the
Mhm.
disciplines
Mm.
to really implement and make that who you are? That's
Right.
the difference. So
Yeah,
it's not about, being fake. I think that's really, really important. That is confidence, but the worth piece of it is that you know you're worthy of that identity.
exactly. That's how you build that worth. You build value that way and the ability to serve people, which is
Mhm.
why we're in this business to begin with. So interesting. What else did you take away from that book that you think our listeners would
The
benefit from
part that I
hearing?
love is like the poem. It's in page 22 and 23. If you get the book, it's kind of what I've been reading from here, just to give credit to the books. I always don't want people to think we're taking things from other authors, is that self-confidence is optional, but self-worth is essential. Like that really struck me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self-confidence gives you drive, which we just talked about, but self-worth gives you peace.
Mm,
And peace is something that is priceless. I think when you don't have peace of heart, peace of mind, peace in your life, I don't care how much money you have, those are the people that kill themselves because they have
mm.
no inner peace. They are the billionaires that hang themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really sad.
Yeah. And you hear
It's
those
the
stories
truth.
all the time. Yeah.
Um, self-confidence eventually surrenders, but self-worth ultimately prevails.
Mm,
And I
that's
just think
great.
that's such a, and this is the kicker, because we're in real estate. So this is really great parallel. Self-worth is your foundation, and self-confidence is the house you build on top of it.
Hmm.
So if your house will only be as ever secure as the foundation it is built upon.
Yep.
And we talk about that in real estate. I'm sure you talked about it too. If you don't have skills and
Mhm.
foundation and processes and things in place, which is your brick house foundation,
Yep.
it's like the three pigs at the chimney, blowing over.
Right. Yes.
If your house is built on sticks, if you're a mobile home, you're not gonna make it. When a tornado comes, when 2023 comes, you're not gonna make it.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Right. Right.
That's why we're seeing a lot of people tap out.
Yeah.
And this is more towards
Yeah.
the people that are lingering, that are like, I think I can make it, but I feel like I'm not. If you can weather this and the change in this market, you will prevail and you will succeed for years to come. Mhm.
Yes. And you reminded me of when you said that the mobile home piece. People also who sway with every trend or who just, people please and change their own persona just to please each group of people that they're with.
Mhm.
That's a great analogy for that mobile home, which cannot stand.
Mhm.
You've got to know solidly in your core what you stand for, who you are, what you won't stand for, and what standard you will live by, which is one reason having something like a unique value proposition is important. Oh, what are you showing?
That's speaking up, please, people pleasing, the lie. I need to
Ah,
please them in order to love me. If
yes.
you live to please others, everyone will love you except yourself.
Mm. Okay, that reminds me of I was on the wrong day. I didn't realize yesterday, but this is also aligned because it's so funny when we read things. I have this tiny Buddha calendar on the side of my desk, and I shared this in our little group chat yesterday. The quote said, hopefully I'll get it right. I think it said, remove the I want you to like me sticker from your forehead and stick it on the mirror where it belongs. I was like, oh, that's so good. So good, right?
What's so fascinating, Meredith, is that the two of us are in a phase of life, I think, that has opened and unfolded so beautifully. We've been married for years. We've had our babies, we've gone through the diapers. We're kind of like on the other side a little bit. You're a little bit more ahead of me. You're going to be an empty nester before me. We reset the clock, but we would have been the same.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. She's taught us so many lessons, our 6-year-old. But in the sense that I'm saying is that the gift for us is to see the second coming behind us
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
see our daughters come behind us and
Mm.
to be able to show up differently than our mothers could show up for us. And that's the beauty of it. It gives me chills because I feel so strong in my conviction and my foundation and what I'm doing
Mm.
that I know how to fall into a meditation now like that. I didn't realize that I had learned that. For
Mm.
the longest time, I was like, I don't do that crap. That's crazy because I'm such a high driver, high pace, fast paced, fast
Right.
talking, person, spazoid that I never thought meditation would be for me.
Right.
Ever. Like to the point where I would reject it. When people would say they meant, I'm like, that's stupid. That's a waste of time. I ain't got time for that shit. That's like literally how I would speak about it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I don't know how it just fell into my life little by little by little. It was like these little 5-minute ones with Peloton,
Mm-hmm.
starting with that. And then someone said they use it to go to sleep to quiet their mind. I was like, oh, good idea. Use it to fall asleep. Next thing I know, I'm evolving into some of these other longer ones. Next thing I know, I cannot live without meditating twice a day. Cannot
Yeah.
live. And sometimes I'll meditate for an additional hour in the middle of the day. And if you asked me even
Wow.
just a year ago, would you be meditating this much? I'd be like, I don't got time for that.
Right.
But what has happened is that not only am I meditating so willingly and lovingly, I'm able to fall into that meditation and come out of it and feel like I was sleeping, but I know it wasn't because as soon as the meditation's over, I wake up
Mm.
out of it. So
Hmm.
whatever's going on that I don't know about, something happened. Does that make sense?
It does. And what do you feel like it's done for you?
Um, Peace,
Mm.
rest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel more rested as a human. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes you feel like you ran a marathon in your brain. That's what I call it.
Yes.
And you're exhausted and you haven't done anything and you don't know why you're so exhausted. I think I
Uh,
don't have as much of that as I used to have. I know it's even
yeah.
just a year ago.
Okay.
Um, my business is not where I want it to be. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people's not. I probably would be having a nervous breakdown if it was
Mm-hmm.
me this point last year.
So it's
So I
helping
know
you
that I know that I have a knowing that as hard as it is, that I know it'll be fine. Whereas before I would be like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And like freak out, like have like a total freak out and like hyperventilating and causing this drama and like you just like create and making it worse. Like,
yeah,
what is that really doing? Nothing.
expending your energy. That's what it's doing. Expending energy and focus you could be putting on something
Yeah.
that
And
actually
so
would.
now I just say like in my even my gratitude journal, I say like I'm so grateful for my personal growth. I
Mm.
say that every day because I know that my personal growth is responsible for not only my growth and my peace and my inner happiness, but for every single relationship around me,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So
including
true.
business,
Yeah.
friendships,
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
spouse, workers, every single relationship I feel in my heart and bones that it is so much exponentially better because I took the time to work on myself. So that's the number one takeaway, I think, to anybody listening. I know we went long, is to remember they say like for every hour you spend on like Jim Rohn said that the more time you spend on yourself, meaning you studying, reading, working on yourself, bettering yourself, educating yourself, being the better version of yourself, whether it's working out, taking care of yourself, reading, meditating, whatever that may be,
Mhm.
it will exponentially show up in your life financially and you don't even realize it.
Oh, so true. So true. The other thing I think it does, listening to you and just beginning, I'm not to where you are with meditating yet, but in my experience, what it does is creates space that allows other things to fall into place. I
Mhm.
think I'll put it that way. And the older we get, the quicker the clock seems to turn, the quicker the years go by.
Mhm.
So I feel like what you're doing is intentionally almost creating time, you
I
know?
do. And that's what you said that because I said I feel like I feel like I time bend. because
Yes.
in that space,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going, I actually put everything on silent. It's like, I
Mm-hmm.
go in, I put my AirPods on and I go into the meditation and I literally, I'm out. And
Mm-hmm.
then I come back and I'm like, what's going on in the world? And surprisingly enough, every time I've done a meditation like that, the next day things just kind of fall into place.
Mm.
An argument just resolves itself. A conflict manages to work out. Things, and in the past, if I'd been sticking my finger in there trying to swirl it around and manage it, and who's doing this and who's doing that, and why aren't you doing your job? When I did that, and once in a while I'll still catch myself doing that, all hell breaks loose. No one
Yes.
gets it done any faster. Everyone's just pissed off.
Right.
And you show your ass to everybody because I've become an asshole, which I don't mean to be, but I do because I'm very much a driver in that way. And I leave and I'm like, I feel defeated.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Nothing really was accomplished.
Defeated and depleted because you used it. You
Yeah.
didn't need to. Yeah. 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 That's good. Okay. So takeaways from this episode, I think, are first of all, read Worthy. Amazing book. Read it, listen to it.
I'm actually only this far in, but I've heard this
Oh,
woman speak
okay.
3 times now at two
Wow, you're lucky.
different, we heard her speak at, didn't she speak at Date with Destiny?
No, I don't. Did she? I don't think so.
Oh, she spoke twice. I saw her speak at Unleash the Power Within twice,
Okay. Okay.
the last day on Sunday.
Okay.
So she probably will be speaking at the virtual one, which is next week.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, she's amazing. So read that, work some meditation time into your calendar.
And DM Meredith or me if you're watching this
Yes.
for some suggestions. That's your call to action is if you're looking for specific meditations you don't know where to begin, that means reach out to us because I'd love to tell you about it, but I don't want to like throw it out there if it's not something of
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to either one of us. We're here to help. And we hope you enjoyed this episode.
It was a good one.
This was a good one. We went deep on this one.
Yeah.
All right. This has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. We'll see you next time. If you're interested in learning how to become that go-to local real estate expert all the sellers call to give you their listings, read Farming for Real Estate Agents. You can pick up your copy today on Amazon, Kindle, on Audible, or anywhere you get books.